Welcome back, everybody. Woo! It's been a long, hot minute. No pun intended. But yeah, the boys are back. We got the trio back, and all I gotta say, it was a good run, boys. We more than achieved what we all were thinking at the beginning of the season. It ended rough, but man, oh man, it was a great season. It wasn't just a good season, Dad. It was a great season. So shout out to all the anyone that was just positive and not so beat up and like I can't believe it, the Lions, blah 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 blah. So shout out to everyone that's been a little positive about how this game ended. But before we dive into things, as you guys know, there's a little accident that happened to the Honolulu Blues crew, myself being. And if you're wondering what this little rap is, you may have or may have not seen the tweets. I've been tweeting a little bit. I posted some funny little coming home video. But yeah, I got some third-degree burns on my hand and arm. And ironically, this came probably 10 minutes before the Lions played the San Francisco 49ers. So here's the story. I got home from an ice fishing trip with a handful of pike. We killed it on the ice fishing trip. So I'm getting ready to cook up this fish. And foolish Adam left a fire unattended, a grease fire, let alone. And sure enough, it went up in flames. And if you don't know what to do with a grease fire, number one thing is cap it. Just find a baking sheet, a big lid, toss it on top, cap that thing, turn the burner off, move it off the burner, and that is it. Shout out Adam for supporting me. Us local Adams got to stick together. But yeah, so I did not do that. I made not the first biggest mistake of pouring water. That's the biggest no-no for a grease fire. You don't pour water on it. And you also don't try to pick it up and take it outside, which is what I tried to do. I thought, oh my gosh, my house is going to burn down. My dad's going to kill me if I don't burn my arm. So what's better than being dead? Burning my arm. So took the grease fire outside and it just got all over my hand and it was not pretty. It was the most painful thing ever. Burns are not to be joked with. So shout out to David Njoku. I cannot believe that dude played in a game after his burn. I don't care how, first degree, second degree, third degree, any type of touching on that burn is just painful. And then it was just a whole journey through the hospital of having to get it cleaned every day, having to get, just sitting in a hospital bed for 13 days. But luckily, with everyone's prayers and support, I made it out of there before Super Bowl and got to watch the 49ers choke away Super Bowl off of a Christian McCaffrey fumble and an awful bounce off of their special teams foot. So all in all, it was a happy ending. And I'm here and healthy now, so we're all good.
Healthy. I love it. I'm glad that you're healthy, bro. I am super. I was trying to tell you, dude, next time, I don't know what your dad's insurance is like, but man, let the motherfucker burn, dude. Get that insurance.
Well, so the other crazy thing is my room is right above the kitchen. So I was also thinking, oh my gosh, my room is going to get the brunt of this too if I let this all go down. It's going to be the kitchen and my room. So, and the panic mode kicks in too. That's number one thing. Try not to panic. If I had an oven mitt out, would have been able to grab that. If I would have thought about grabbing the oven mitt, would have helped tremendously. But I was just panicked, flustered, freaking out. So just take a second. Oh my gosh, there is a fire. What to do? Cap it. Baking soda, fire extinguisher. You'll be good.
I'm glad you're okay, Adam. I'm glad you still got both arms. You can type. You still got your eyeballs. You can see. You can breathe, and you're here with us to enjoy another Lions season, man. Scary times. I think we've all had, over the years we've been together, we've all had some, trip ups out there. Close calls. Yeah.
Most definitely, dude. I remember when my appendix burst, I thought I was dead. I was like,
I remember my appendix burst like a year after yours. I thought I was dead too.
It's terrible. I don't know. Appendix bursting is really rough. You got to go through some surgery. But man, having a skin graft on your arm, I don't really even understand it. I don't get what a skin graft is. Are they taking skin from I don't get what's happening. I just don't understand it.
So essentially what a skin graft is they take a piece of skin, typically off your thigh, and just like staple it, sew it back on, patch up over your skin, and it just like link works. And honestly, I didn't know this, but skin grafting has been around for like thousands of years. Like they used to do this in the 1800s of just like simple methods of replacing skin with other skin. So crazy how technology has advanced. And honestly, like I can still move my fingers. I'll probably be good to go in like 3 months. I mean, it's more of a timetable than I'm expecting, but for a burn like that, that was kind of crazy. And also, the other big thing, the adrenaline rush I had was unlike anything I've ever felt. I was carrying a boiling pot that had just flames engulfed over my arm, trying to get it outside, trying to open the curtains too, which were shut, trying to unlock the door, which was locked. So I'm like, with my left hand, oil's burning my right hand, and I couldn't feel a thing. All I knew was I have to get this outside the house. My arm is already burnt toast, so I can't make things worse. So I got to get this out of here before it just burns my kitchen with my arm. So yeah, the adrenaline rush was kind of insane. I literally didn't feel my arm at all. I could just look down at my skin peeling off, like melting off, which was crazy. And then sure enough, when I ran to the sink and put water on it, I still just couldn't feel anything. And it was just water on like the rawest of raw skin, which if you guys ever had a little paper cut, you know how much that hurts. And honestly, I couldn't feel a thing. So, but once I got in the car on the way to the hospital, things started to kick in, it got a little sore. And then the most painful thing was having to be in a hospital bed, watching the Lions collapse in the second half off of a little tiny phone, just knowing that, oh my gosh, this win could cure everything, and my Lions are going to break my heart, but that's okay. We won the North. We won 2 playoff games. I went to both. Don't care. So ultimately, it was a tough ending for the Lions, but we'll talk about that in a little. We are going to be expecting Scott Daly, long snapper for the Lions, to be hopping on shortly. So, boys, do you want to dive into this 49ers game? I know it's been quite a while, but we can kind of tease it a bit. Then we'll pick it up a little later after Scott jets out of here. But ultimately, the number one thing I kind of noticed was J-Mo. This was kind of J-Mo's coming out party. He didn't really get a lot of targets, a lot of touches, but we know this dude is a playmaker now. And he is a guy that the Lions have become so good. No pressures on him next year. Nothing. No one's looking at him for bust or anything. Speak of the man.
Oh.
All right, we'll let Scott get some things figured out. He's kind of popping in and out of here. But any comments on J-Mo going off, Nick?
No, go to Julius real quick.
All right. Well, Scott is here, so we're just gonna put him right now.
No, he's not here.
Wait, who's
It's me trying to get in and do something real quick.
Oh my God, that's what is going on, Nick? What?
Ask Julius the question.
All right, Julius, give me some thoughts on J-Mo and kind of just getting 2 touchdowns on a big stage like that.
I mean, I hate to say it was all for naught, but it would have been really great if it would have been followed up with a victory. But it's still encouraging. J-Mo is definitely a breakout candidate going into next season, like we all thought he would be going into this season. And maybe it took him a while to get his feet wet, learn the system, learn the culture. But I believe he's done that, and I believe he's a Lion. He's a Campbell Lion, and I'm expecting big things year 3. Big things like breakout year 3 for Jameson Williams. I mean, he did against the San Francisco 49ers defense. He's never going to be a Amon-Ra St. Brown, 120 targets. He's not going to be that guy. But, if we can get, a big play wide receiver threat on the field opposite, all these other weapons we have, it'd be huge.
Yeah. Okay. What was the question? Sorry, I was trying to get stuff figured out. It looks like my computer might die on me, and I'm like freaking out for it.
Just talk about the 49ers game in general, but we are talking a little J-Mo. And honestly, do you think he can explode into like a legit wide receiver next year? Because 12th overall pick, man. This is who he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be a playmaker, doing things like that every game, not just once in a while, a big championship game, Nick. So do you think this can kind of continue into next year?
I do think so. I think the idea of JMO being this huge like playmaker, like this huge like Tyreek Hill, kind of should just kind of be tempered a little bit. I've said it a while now, and I'm saying it again, and I like the progress that we're getting from him. I just don't think we need to have him as the staple of our offense when we have guys like Laporta and Gibbs and Monty and St. Brown, right? So I like Jameson, and he is going to be a phenomenal wide receiver in this league. I just don't think like he's going to be Justin Jefferson. And I don't think we need him to be Justin Jefferson. He is getting or Amon-Ra. Yeah, exactly. He is getting the looks from Goff, and we've seen him get more and more as the season progressed, right? He missed all of offseason his first year, came back in this back half of the season, got a few targets, maybe 1 or 2 targets. This year, he was in the offseason, but missed the first 4 games of the season. That stuff just doesn't click with Goff. Goff has to have a connection, and I've said it hundreds and hundreds of times. I don't think that Jameson Williams is bad, and I don't think he is going to be a 150-yard receiver every single game. He is going to be the role player that we need. Oh, we traded up and drafted him in the first round. That's okay. That's okay. We didn't need Jack Campbell this year to be the best linebacker in the NFL, right? These guys are going to grow. It took Iffy 3 years to finally find his making and his mark on this Lions team. I love Jameson Williams, and I think he's going to do phenomenal things as a Lion. I just think we all need to temper our expectations. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the best wide receiver in the NFL, and you can argue with me all you want. I'll sit here and defend St. Brown to the day I die. So when you have a guy like that, let Jameson Williams be the Jordan Addison to Justin Jefferson. You know what I mean? Let him be the T. Higgins to Jamar Chase. There is nothing wrong with that. He will have explosive games. It just won't be this consistent. But I do think we see more targets and more receptions next year and then the following year and all of this stuff. So I like JMO. The 49ers game was brutal. We obviously haven't done a show since. Julius and I did a show that morning. It was so tough. That was so tough. I thought I was over it until I saw the 49ers coming out in that Hollywood type walkout. They had their freaking boombox going, and I just I wasn't over it, dude. I'm still not over it. I don't know when. I think when it comes to free agency in a month, I'll finally start to kind of be okay. And it was such a good season. It sucks that it has this lingering effect of like just wanting more. We were the best team in the NFL this year. We would have cooked Kansas City. We cooked San Fran. I cannot believe the dropped balls from secondary, from receivers, from running backs. Like everyone just the pressure got too much for the Lions, and it was tough, dude. It was tough. So I don't know. It's even hard for me to talk about it right now. It's still.
I'm just about to say, Nick. I commend you for having the words because I just can't even express words about that game. I am ready to move on from it because I cannot accept it. You know.
Yeah, I know. You can't accept it. It's unacceptable, dude. Like, we should have won. I can't believe it. And I know it's 2 weeks later. No one even wants to hear about this, but we haven't been able to discuss it with ourselves. Our chat was like freaking crickets, dude. We just like, we haven't been able to talk about it because it was so heartbreaking. It wasn't even like the Philadelphia-San Francisco game last year. It was just an ass whooping from the beginning when Brock Purdy got injured last year. It was us whooping ass. That first end around to JMO where he goes for 50 yards. It was so electric. I'll tell you what, it was so electric. I got kicked out of a bar in Alabama. I was down there for the Senior Bowl, and I was too loud, apparently, and I was slamming on the fucking countertop, dude. Just, let's fucking go, yelling, dude, doing the whole Detroit Lions first down all day. Finally, the owner steps up and is like, yo, shut the fuck up. And I was drunk by this point, so I looked at him and I yelled it right back at him. And he's like, I own this bar. And I was like, I don't fucking care. I own this bar today, dude. Like, you better recognize I'm a Lions fan. I'm wearing this hoodie.
Awesome.
And he's nose to nose with me. He comes nose to nose, and I have my buddy Russell Brown, friend of the show, there, and we're in Mobile together. And he has to separate us, and he pays the tab, and I end up leaving. And it was just ridiculous, but it was like that's how exciting it was. I was ready to fight fucking anyone, dude. And then I left that bar, and as soon as I left that bar, Gibbs fumbled. They scored a touchdown. Blah blah blah. It just snowballed. We went to another bar, and it was just not as electric, and I could tell the wind had been just knocked out of me. It was terrible, like figuratively, I guess. But
Wow.
it was rough. It was fun though. It was really fun. It was an experience I'll never forget. Ask Russ about it; he'll never forget it. It was really fun to get.
That's awesome.
In Mobile. But
That's awesome, Nick. Yeah, it's similar type, not similar, I guess, actually completely different because I was in a hospital bed, but very calm and quiet. But yes, it was very rough. Now we have Scott Daly joining us, not just Nick from a camera. And what is going on, Scott? Thank you for joining.
Boys, how we doing? Adam, I'm sorry to hear about the burn situation, man. T's and P's to you, my guy.
Yeah, I've been doing my best. Doing good. Just keeping spirits up. Lions had a great season. Couldn't ask for more. So happy to be talking to you as well. So I'm ready, man.
That's all I can ask for, man. Yeah, it was a wild year to say the least. And I know you guys touched upon it a little bit. It was obviously not the way that we hoped, but obviously exciting times moving ahead. And yeah, it's a good time to be a Lions fan, that's for sure.
Absolutely, man. We got the ball rolling. It seems like the Lions are making splashes every day. Even today, we signed the sack leader for the Canadian Football League. Matthias Betts, I believe his name is. But nonetheless, and then we got a good defensive Lions coach from Tennessee during the Senior Bowl too as well. So the Lions are popping. It really seems like a lot of guys are wanting to play for Dan Campbell. So this kind of brings me to my next question. Once you got injured, how did your role change for the Detroit Lions after that injury? Did you become more of a kind of just mentor for Jake McQuaid or kind of just a hype man for Jack Fox? Or how did you contribute to this playoff run?
It was definitely different. A situation that I've never really been used to. It was my first real big injury that I've had in my sports career, luckily to this point. I've been really grateful being healthy, but, these things happen. It was a freak thing. Just a guy's helmet went to my knee and, it was just tore my MCL right there. So it was definitely a tough spot. And it was definitely different. But, luckily, Jake didn't really need a whole lot of mentoring. He's been a stud in this league for a long time, and he's a Pro Bowler. He's played with the Rams for a long time and played with Dallas before he came here. So he didn't need any of my coaching expertise in that area. But and Jack it was just cool just being on the sidelines, just able to just watch these guys do their thing. Obviously you miss being out there, you miss being, just with the boys. And obviously the year that we were having, it was tough to, be sidelined for that, but just makes you more and more excited just to come back. And like we talked about a second ago, it's just exciting times ahead for all of us and just for the franchise as a whole. What Dan and Brad and Sheila are just building each and every year. It's definitely a sustainable way that they're doing it. And it's just exciting times, man.
That is awesome. That's awesome. And it kind of transitions me into my first question. What's going on, Scott, Nick over here? I'm curious, this is a show, by the fans, for the fans. I want to know a little bit more in depth of that locker room and how it's been just seeing this culture change from 2021 to 2024, 22 to 24. I can't remember. Anyways, how has it been in that locker room? How exciting was it this year? For real?
It's been nuts. Kind of like you said, the second that Dan came in the locker room, I was grateful that he was able to bring me on in 21 when he first came here. And just to see that slow growth and process, like you said, from 21 all the way to this past season, it's been incredible. And I mentioned a lot of people asked, I'm sure it was really tough. Obviously you guys we went 0-10-1 to start the year on 21, and it was miserable. And yeah, it was tough. Not gonna lie, obviously losing sucks. No one wants to be part of that, but if like in that locker room, like you would never know that we were 0-10-1. Like the vibe was never, oh my gosh, this is terrible. This sucks. We're never going to do this. Like Dan was just every week it was like, just, hey, trust the process. We're there. We're going to get there. Just roll with us, roll with me. We're going to get there eventually. And that just became apparent year after year. Obviously we won a couple games in 21. Obviously it didn't get off to a great start last year. 1-6, and then things just started to pick up, and no one was panicking, no one was doing anything drastic or changing things like that. But we just trust the process, and Dan and Brad have had a plan since day one to really establish this team the way that it's going to be able to have long sustained success. And I think that it's starting to show itself, and it's awesome for everyone else to see that success, especially this past season. But I mean, it's amazing locker room that Dan has built, because everyone just rallies around him. I mean, week in, week out, he has an amazing plan for what he's trying to establish for us to be successful on Sundays. And I think that the guys are just all bought in, and I think that's really apparent, especially with like Anzalone when he had this whole article in the Players Tribune. I think that just said it all. Like, no one second guessed Dan. Whatever decision he makes, like, we're all with them 100% all the way, no questions asked. And I think that that's a really powerful thing to have, especially in today's league, where there's a lot of, egos, and, a lot of guys some guys are by themselves and it's all like about themselves, but not in our locker room from what I've been able to tell. Guys are all bought in, guys are all about it. And we only have one mission only next year, and that's to go all the way. So we're fired up, man.
Let's go.
That's awesome. That's awesome. One pride, like we like to say over here in Lions fandom. How you doing, Scott? I'm Julius. I was looking through your past. Saw you originally from the Chicago area. Long snapper of the year as a senior in high school. Top long snapper in the nation in college. How did you get into long snapping? Did you start young? How did you develop into being one of the best at your position today?
Yeah, it's a really unique position because no one really aspires and dreams of being a long snapper at such a young age, and everyone wants to be, the quarterback, receiver, DB, linebacker, those flashy positions. Funny enough, I thought I was going to be a baseball player for the longest time. Baseball was my first love, my first passion. Played baseball religiously for as long as I can remember, and then kind of started playing football. It's like a little bit because I love the sport. Like just wanted to be as well rounded as I possibly could, and there we go.
Tigers, baby.
There we go. Yeah, I was like Julia said, I was born in Chicago, so I was a Cubs fan for forever. So it was a wild, man. But
were you a Bears fan as a kid? I don't mean to throw that in. I was just wondering.
Yeah. I was a Bears fan. We had some crazy years. I remember watching the 07 year where they went to the Super Bowl. I mean, that was nuts. I mean, they had awesome years with Lovey up over there, and it was definitely surreal playing them for the first time in 21, being a Bears fan forever, and to go play in Soldier Field. I had, I think, 20 or 25 family members out there for that first game. It was nuts. It was insane. So, but and any little bit of allegiance that I had in Chicago went out the window that day. So I've never got nothing left in that regard. But in terms of snapping, yeah, it was one of those things, like I said, where it's not a very glamorous position. No one really aspires to be it. I think it's getting more specialized now because people are realizing that if you really like hone in on it, you can really, go places, college, NFL, whatever it may be. And so then I played football like starting 5th and 6th grade. Didn't think much of it. And the only spot that I really could stick at was snapping. It kind of just I viewed it as like kind of like pitching, like, between my legs, as throwing a ball between my legs. And then my sophomore head coach, Mark Wiggins, he was kicker at Illinois State. He had a kind of an eye for special teams, kicking, punting, and snapping. And he told me, he was like, hey, like, you're pretty good at this. You can like go places. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, I'm going to go play baseball. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, yeah, whatever. You're saying this to everyone. And he's like, no, like, go to a camp. I know this guy named Chris Rubio. He's like the guru of long snapping, whatever that meant. And it's like, yeah, go try this out. Go to a camp, see just what you think, and go from there. I'm like, all right. So me and my mom went to one of his camps in Chicago, and I think it was like spring of 2010 or something. And I camped at like number 4 in the nation. He ranked me at number 4 in the country. And I was like, okay, this could be something. Definitely piqued my interest a little bit. And then from there, I just like really started to get better at a really exponential rate, as opposed to baseball, where I was like, guys are catching up to me. Like the level of talent was getting tougher and tougher to be really good at baseball for me, with the amount of work that I was putting in. And football was just paying off a little bit quicker. and a little bit easier than baseball was at the time. And had to make a decision. I was like, all right, if I really want to go all in on this, I really got to commit my whole time and effort into this, because in baseball, like summer is like, you know, spring, summer ball, and then summertime you gotta, for football, you have to go to like camps and get exposure and be on like college campuses and put your name out there. And so I was like, all right, I'm going all in on football, and my eggs all in one basket. Just train with him, follow Chris around the country, and really was able to grow and learn about just the art of long snapping, more or less. And yeah, I was able to really get better, and I was able to get a couple college offers. Luckily, I was able to go to Notre Dame on a full scholarship, and loved my time there. It was awesome. And yeah, it's been kind of a wild road to say the least. But and then after college, got picked up by Dallas, got let go at Final Cuts, but got a ton of film, learned a ton. I mean, just getting your pinky toe in a NFL training camp is just eye-opening. I mean, to think that you're something, and then when you go in there and you're with the cream of the crop when it comes to talent, that level is just incredible. To get that just kind of exposure, and bounce around some spring leagues. I was in the AAF before we folded due to financial woes and difficulties. And then I was in the XFL before Uncle COVID hit in March of 20. And then kind of was just hanging around, just staying in shape. I got my license to be a financial advisor at that time, because honestly, I was at a point where I was like, I was just praying and saying, talking to God and saying, all right, if it's not my time, and if it's not meant to be, then I'm totally okay with it. And then lo and behold, we got a call from Dave Phipp and the Lions and saying that, hey, we like your film. We want to bring you in and give you a chance to compete. And things worked out, and I've been here ever since. So it's been a wild, crazy ride.
Awesome.
Well, that is awesome, because you essentially just answered my next question. I was getting ready to ask. You were on the San Antonio Commanders, an AFL team, folded. Then you went to the XFL. COVID hit, and that kind of folded, and then you ended up on the Detroit Lions. So I guess I'm going to spin my question back into the XFL and again, ask it, was there any kind of crazy XFL moments or stories you had? Because I know that league was a little different.
It was different. I had an amazing time and experience. I mean, it's such a unique atmosphere. I mean, when you're in the AAF or XFL or whatever spring, I know the USFL and now it's the UFL now that they merged with, I think is awesome. I think it's a awesome thing to have, because there's so many talented guys out there that are not on a roster yet, and they just need that one little opportunity or one just lucky break, kind of like how I had. I mean, especially with specialists and snappers, like there's only one guy per team, so there's not a lot of guys that are like able to fill in. The turnover rate's much lower compared to other positions. So as a kicker, punter, and snapper, those spring leagues are invaluable. I mean, those are so valuable for those guys to get that film. I mean, the one that stands out to me is going to DC, and they got the longest beer snake I've ever seen in my life out there, like Audi Field. I mean, they were going bananas, and they went all in on that atmosphere right there, and it was amazing. But I mean, the XFL was so cool because you had guys who are on the very beginning of their career, kind of like myself, who are trying to break in. You had guys on like the latter end of their career who are just like, who love ball and they just want to play and just play. And they know that they're probably not going to make it back in the league, but they're able to just keep on playing the game that they love. And to have like those two kind of guys like in one locker room, there for the same purpose, because they just love ball and they're able to just play the game that they love. It was a lot of fun. It was really, really cool time. We got to play MetLife, which was nuts. I mean, New York had a solid showing out there. When I was in San Antonio in the AAF, we had, 40,000, I think, per game, which is insane. That city is praying for an NFL team, and I don't know if they're gonna be able to get one, but as long as Jerry's out there, but it was such a cool experience, and I'm truly grateful for them giving me opportunities to prolong my career in that sense, because if I didn't have that kind of film, I probably wouldn't be here today.
That's awesome. AAF, man, that was kind of one of my introductions to writing for football. Writing about football is, if you Google the AAF fantasy football rankings, that's me. I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in the world who put out an AAF fantasy football rankings. So fun little tidbit about myself. All right. So I see a question here from our listeners, and it kind of leads me to my question. So I'm going to let you answer. I'm going to have you answer both if you don't mind. The first question here is from a friend of mine, Mike Bennett. Scott, are you looking to play here for the next 15 years and become the next Don Molbeck?
That's obviously the goal. Mule set the bar pretty high, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to attain what he was able to accomplish here. But Mule is awesome. He was amazing to work with. Obviously, when you're competing with guys, there's a little bit of awkwardness, there, but there was none of that with Don. He was amazing. He was helpful. Any kind of questions that I had, anything that was thrown my way, he was amazing. And then to be able to come back and to be able to have really a coach, especially like starting off as a rookie in the league, it was incredible. He was always helpful. He's always trying to help guys in any way. And you can just tell after 5 minutes of talking with him why he was able to play 17 years. He's just a perfectionist. He's all about his craft and just doing everything he can, and always thinking just of others as well and trying to be the best teammate he can possibly be. Is definitely apparent of why he was able to have the kind of success that he had. So I'm really grateful for him. It's awesome to have him as just someone I can just bounce things off of, as someone who's been there, done that, and whether it's on the field, off the field, whatever it may be. And I'm truly grateful for him. He's awesome.
Do you still keep in touch with him or no?
Yeah, he's like coaching pretty much. So he's like on the field. He's kind of like a Swiss Army knife in the sense of like he's during the season he's more coach on the field, and then he'll do like a little bit of scouting like during Saturdays and travel a little bit. Now he's got this scout capping on, so he's like on the road seeing guys going to pro days and things like that. So he has a very unique role, which is pretty cool because he has a lot of knowledge for playing 17 years in the league. That's just something that just doesn't come along very often. So I see him all the time on a day-to-day basis, and he's the GOAT for sure.
He sure is. So that kind of leads me to my question, though. Again, I like my questions. I like to kind of get inside like what's happening behind the scenes, stuff that we don't know, stuff that I just truly don't even know, and I love to get an answer for. So you're a restricted free agent this year, which for anyone that's listening, basically allows the Lions to offer you a contract where you are then allowed to like test the waters, and if you get offered a contract by anyone else, the Lions can match it. How much of that involves you, or do you have a team or an agent that like deals with that, and you just I'll play wherever the hell I need to play, like you just tell me and I'm going, I don't care, or are you the one that's like, yeah, I'm negotiating, I'm talking, I want to know every contract detail, all of that?
Yeah, that's really where my agent comes into play. Obviously, it's a new territory for me. It's my first time. As my first 3 years, I was exclusive rights free agent, which means that they had the right to tender me, and they were able to do that the last 3 years, which I'm really grateful for. And now it's a little bit different, like you said, with the restricted, and then they can either choose that or they can waive that and then go, I'll be an unrestricted free agent at that point. Then we can figure things out from there. But we'll see what happens. It's definitely new, unknown waters for me. So I have a great agent, great team, and I'm sure they're going to be talking things and figuring things out. Obviously, got a lot of things we got to handle, free agency wise, and getting the guys back and getting the boys back. I'm definitely excited. I've enjoyed my time here. And I'm just giving it all just up to God and just praying and being faithful and seeing what happens next.
Love it.
Awesome. Scott, real quick. I remember a few years ago, I saw a video, went kind of viral on YouTube and Twitter. You're snapping and you're hitting the bottle off one of your friend's head, and you're like snapping 100 miles per hour so quick. I just always wonder if there are any bloopers behind that video. I don't know if you know the video I'm speaking.
Yeah, I think that was the XFL. Like they were doing they were like doing a huge like social media push. It was right before the league was going out, so they were trying to get any clips or reviews they can to kind of push the league like opening in February. That was the second take. In all honesty, I just told myself I'm like, do not miss slow, otherwise you're gonna break his face. That was our kicker, Matt McCrane. He had played in the league for a little bit. So I just the first one I'm just like, if I miss high, I miss high. It's not a big deal. But and then second one I was able to knock it off. I'm just like, do not miss as low because I will never hear the end of this, and I could possibly put our kicker on IR possibly. So we cannot have that happen. So luckily it all worked out. They got the clip. Yeah, it all just worked out. So it was a success in my book.
That's nice.
I want to jump in. I want to follow up on a question. I want to follow up on that real quick. Did you watch the Pro Bowl this year, Scott Daly?
I did. Yeah. I thought it was really cool how they integrated the snappers into it. I know that last year. Yeah. I thought last year it was a tall task, I think, with like how they changed and adapted when they went from the flag football, from the actual game to a flag football in the event stuff, which I think is the way to go. It's one thing to, I just heard stories from guys that like no one really wanted to play in that game. Like physically your body's dead And like, obviously it's awesome to go to Hawaii, but at the same time, like 99% of the guys are, this is from what I heard from guys that have gone, 99% of the guys are just going through the motions that don't get hurt, kind of just like have a good time. And there's always one or two guys that are trying to win the MVP. So they're going all out, trying to do whatever they can to win. And then so it just causes a lot of problems and issues. But it was definitely cool to see how they get the snappers more involved in that area. I know they had like the kick-tac-toe where they had snappers trying to snap at a giant tic-tac-toe board up there, which I don't think was very reasonable for those guys. But it was cool that they had the snapping one in the beginning, and then they had the guys involved with like that last like obstacle course or whatever towards the end, which Panay pushing Kelsey was like the best sight the entire weekend. That was awesome.
Aiden right next to him going,
just going nuts. Yeah, so it was definitely cool to see some guys on the team representing. It was pretty cool.
But I do want to know. So we watched. Speaking of the snappers in the very beginning, they had 5 different targets, all worth different points, right? And we saw Kelsey going for the middle every single time, and he got one. He finally got one at the very, very end. How do you think you would do in that contest with all eyes on you?
It's tough. Yeah. Like my initial thought was after seeing it, because like Matisic from Jacksonville, I mean, he was trying to snap it through the wall, which was really fun. Like the announcers were like, geez, this guy's ripping it back there, which he does. I mean, he's an absolute animal, and he had an amazing year. So he deserves every bit to be in the Pro Bowl. But I mean, it was tough. Like my thing was like, all right, like what kind of balls are they giving these guys? Like, is it like QB balls where it's like kind of pebbly and it's like a little tough to grip, or is it a little bit tough? It was just funny seeing like every guy different approach. Like he had Kelsey, who actually ripped it back there pretty good. Like he probably could pass for a backup snapper. I'm sure they had him as like the emergency or second or third guy, like on Philly. And then he had like Kelly, who was kind of tossing it back there, kind of like not even looking and going through it. But it was tough. I mean, to hit the 5, I was like, I would probably, kind of like what DePaula did for Minnesota. He kind of went for it a couple of times, and he's like, all right, I'm just going to go for the guaranteed points, and then kind of go from there. So I think that was a pretty good strategy.
Yeah, ended up winning the NFC the round. So yeah,
he did. Yeah, it was awesome.
Cool.
All right, Scott, let's take it back to the Detroit Lions. Obviously, you've been a part of a lot of awesome wins. The Chiefs win in week 1, Dan Campbell's first victory, and even, a couple beatdowns at Lambeau Field or a comeback against Chicago. Was there one locker room moment that just stood out or that just comes right to your head above all the others?
I think the Kansas City one to start the year was pretty special. I think in the sense that we were so fired up to get the opening game of the year, to obviously take on KC when they were doing the banner raising and everything, and then being defending champs. It was a good barometer, I think, of where we were going that season. And I think to start off on the right foot that year in KC, it was awesome environments, just an amazing time, great atmosphere, the atmosphere that you just dream of as playing as a player. That was a really special one, just giving us that boost of confidence, like, hey, we can play with anyone at that point. Like, obviously, to take down the Super Bowl champs that first week. And then I think at Green Bay on that Thursday night game in Prime, I think was another just like prime time, like, hey, we can go anywhere, play with anyone. And obviously to start off that way in the division, I think was a great test as well, to do that on the road. And those were 2 for me. And then going back a little bit, I think the Green Bay game the previous year, the last game of the year, where I think that was a true test of who we were. And because that basically was like a playoff atmosphere. I mean, like, obviously it was unfortunate that we weren't able to win and get in, but for Green Bay it was. And we just said, hey, screw it. If they're not getting in, then we aren't either. So it was one of those things where I think that was a really good barometer of that Green Bay game and then Kansas City of showing just putting that belief in ourselves, like who we are, we can play with anybody. And I think that really just set the stage for us moving into the rest of the season. And I think that paid dividends for us, obviously going into the playoffs, taking care of business there, and just trying to grow as a team.
Awesome. Ooh, Adam, are you going to
Julius, any more questions here?
No, I just want to thank Scott for coming on. It's been great. I mean, we don't always get long snappers, so it's wonderful. It's been wonderful talking to you. I saw you did a lot of charity work in the Dominican Republic, some stuff online about that. I want to commend you for that. Also, you finished pretty high in the Pro Bowl voting as well, so congratulations on that too. You could have easily made it yourself. Very well deserving.
Appreciate that. Yeah, no, I'm definitely excited just for to get healthy again and to get this thing rolling. Obviously, I mean, just like what Alex said, like last year it was tough, but next year it's all us, and we're ready to go. And just itching. It was definitely tough not being out there with the boys, but the thing we got brewing and cooking right now in Detroit is truly special, and I'm excited for the city to host the draft. I think it's gonna be an awesome thing just for this team and for the city as well, just to show everyone that Detroit's back on the map, and that we got things rolling and cooking. And I just can't emphasize enough just how fired up we are for this next season.
All right, Scott, before we get you out of here, I got one last question for you. Oftentimes, you see interviews with quarterbacks, wide receivers, and if you could throw to any wide receiver, who would it be? If you could catch a pass from any quarterback, who would it be? It's a little different for long snapping. Now, if you could long snap to any punter or even just snap to any quarterback or any type of snap to any player in NFL history outside of our boy Jack Fox, I know that's what you'd say, who would you choose?
Ooh, that's a good question. So, like, when you first asked that question, if I could throw past anyone, I would have said St. Brown, because that would have been just the way to go. Because St. is just that guy's an animal. I mean, the amount of times, like, to say that he's the hardest working guy in our team is an understatement. I mean, that guy is an absolute animal. He is just absolute laser locked in. And, like, when
Does
Dan
that rub off on other guys in the locker room?
It does. I mean, like, him and like Khalif Raymond are the first that comes to mind. I mean, obviously those guys are in the same room, and I think that it just gets contagious. And I mean, like, when you see that, like, it just fires you up. It's like, okay, I could be doing more. I mean, these guys are out here and just grinding like 30, 40 minutes after practice. I mean, these guys are still putting in the work, and it's like not as much like clock in, clock out. It's like, hey, what do I need to do to get better today? And to be able to do that. And it's just awesome. I mean, Saint's just an animal. I mean, that guy is an absolute beast. And I just thought it was amazing how Dan brought up the point where he didn't get the Pro Bowl initially. And then Dan's like, yeah, I mean, as if he didn't have enough motivation as it is. Like, the last thing I want to do is piss this guy off. And he just take care of the business. And he's just been awesome to watch. I guess the one, if I could snap to anyone, I mean, punter wise, it would probably be, I mean, again, Chicago roots, like Brad Maynard. I mean, like, that guy was just like, he was one of the best. And he was just so good for a long time. When I was watching him, it was Pat Manley, who's a close friend of mine and a guy who snapped for the Bears for a long time. He's basically the equivalent of Mule in Chicago. I mean, he snapped for 16 years in Chicago. Absolute beast. I mean, played there for a long time. It's just a rock and just foundation. And then I say to Robbie, I mean, like Robbie Gold, I mean, he's a Chicago guy. These are, I guess, my childhood self coming out a little bit. But then I guess another guy would be Hansen. That'd be awesome just to snap to him and to see him. Obviously, it was a little bit before my playing days, but I've gotten a chance to get to know him over the years too, and he's been incredible. And his wife, Kathleen, we've been able to get to know them, and my wife and I, and they've been awesome being around the facility and just being around the team. It's been great to have those just two pillar stones of Mule and Hansen around here to be able to bounce things off of, and two guys who are arguably one of the best to ever do it. Has been pretty special. So I would say that.
I'm glad you didn't say Paul Ettinger, because that would have been the dude, the Michigan State boy with the Bears who knocked out the Lions of the playoffs. I'd have had to take you out of the show right there. But, yeah, we're good.
Would have been kicked out of the chat immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
Out of here. Yeah.
Love to hear it, Scott. You had some phenomenal answers, but it was always a pleasure having you on. If you ever want to come back, we will definitely be hitting you up probably next year sometime. Hopefully you're still with the Lions. But ultimately, thank you once again. This was a very, very cool interview, and hopefully you continue your healing process and keep up the good work.
Appreciate it, fellas. Yeah, seriously, I'd love to come on again. Just let me know. And enjoyed chatting with you guys. Adam, get better, man. Need you ready to go by the time, camp and OTAs are rolling around. So, man, appreciate you guys again. Thanks, man.
We appreciate you, man. Thank you. Oh, Scott was awesome.
Very cool interview. Definitely a different perspective from kind of like a long snapper, even special teams side. I thought that was cool, getting the mind of a special teams pro, and not just your typical, Taylor Decker, Jace Kabinda, tight end St. Zylstra, the guys we've interviewed in the past. So yeah, Scott, that was very, very cool. Shout out to him for coming on. But if you guys are going to stay around, we are going to be still jumping back into this 49ers game, because I know Nick still has a lot to say about it. Julius, I know you've been awfully quiet over there holding some things in. Boys, let's just dig right into it. I feel like there's so much to talk about this 49ers game. There's not like one, all right, let's talk about the offense. Let's talk about the defense. So we're just going to jump all around. So first things first, let's talk about, I mean, I know we're not going to talk about this, but the first half was phenomenal. This Lions team was amazing. And honestly, I do think one of the biggest catalysts of this game was home field advantage. Had the Lions been playing in Ford Field, and the bounce off of Vildor's face, the Gibbs fumble following right after, our fans would have rallied and just given so much strength and courage to the team and just showing them, no, this game is not over. We are going to win. That I feel like the Lions may have had a different outcome in that. But being on the road for the first time in 2 weeks after having 2 home games, I feel like that did play a little bit into it, and the Lions didn't have their fans to rally around them. So shout out to, I can't even think of the stupid ref's name that botched the Cowboys call, because
Brad
we
Allen
kind of would have had that number 1 seed, technically, but 49ers might have played their starters nonetheless. But ultimately, if the Lions can get a 1 seed, which seems very possible, it really seems like this NFC is wide open. There is no true juggernaut. The Eagles kind of fell off. The Cowboys showed they're still frauds. And the 49ers, they just can't win 2 big games in a row. So ultimately, the Lions are going to be back. And if we could get that 1 seed, I feel like we could walk to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Julius, you want to talk about it?
I'm just going to say thank you, Adam, for bringing up Brad Allen. He's the reason. I blame it all. In my cold, dark period I've been in the last, 2 weeks. Yeah, all my dark thoughts go back to that call, because that we were supposed to be the number 1 seed. And as it stands, what I saw, we were the 12th man of Ford Field was unbeatable. We would have went to the Super Bowl if we would have hosted the Niners. That whole meltdown in the second half, the drop balls, the fumbles would have not have happened, or not to the extent it happened. And our home crowd would have affected the 49ers way more. I mean, they were chanting "Go Lions" at the Super Bowl. I heard it on the telecast. Did you guys hear? I mean, did anybody else out there?
There was a Jared Goff chant. One Lions fan was at the Super Bowl, and he started he's like, Jared Goff, which I absolutely loved. And he's like, getting ready for next year was his caption. So shout out to that dude. Don't know who it was, but that was awesome.
I don't believe in conspiracy theories as much as people think I do, but nothing was rigged. However, there was an undercurrent in the world that wanted the Lions to be in the Super Bowl. And that undercurrent was silenced for those 2 weeks heading up to the Super Bowl. Almost like, don't ruin our fun, Lions fans. But let it be known, that was our Super Bowl to lose this year. And I blame Brad Allen.
It's fair to say that, because Adam and I especially were at the Tampa Bay divisional round game. Adam also went to the Los Angeles Rams game. And I don't want to speak on behalf of him, but I can speak on behalf of myself. My brother Travis, who's in the chat, was with me at the game. It was so loud in Ford Field that I almost fainted. Like I wasn't even screaming. It was so loud that it was like what it felt like. I don't know what the hell was happening, but it felt like my brain was just bouncing back and forth off of like my skull. Like it was to a point where, like, in the first, like, the CJ pick, like, I had to sit down. Like, everyone's standing up cheering. I had to sit down. I don't know if it was like the rush of emotions or just how loud it was, how excited I was, or a combination of all three. It was deafening when the opposing team was on offense. And then to the same degree, you could hear a pin drop on the field from up in section 325, right? It was so quiet when Lions were on offense. It, like, to a point where, like, if you looked around, Lions were on offense and you looked around, you scanned the field, the crowd, there would be about 7 to 10 people in each section standing up, going like this, like quieting, like every person. There was like a designated person for each row to stand up, look at everyone, and be like, shh. There was more shushes heard at a sporting game than any game I've ever been to. Like, it was nuts. And then again, we would go on defense and it would be so loud you couldn't hear, you couldn't think, you couldn't even breathe. It was so crazy. It was just nuts. It was nuts. And yes, having that home field advantage, I think helped us, especially in the Rams game. I think we were beating Tampa no matter what. I don't care where you are, where we were. We could have been on the moon. We'd have beat Tampa Bay. There was no doubt about it. It was actually closer than it probably should have been. San Fran, I knew was going to be tough, and we should have beat them. But I think at home, it was a guarantee win. That's how crazy the 12th man is for Detroit. And what I'm scared of is that this year was everyone's like, this is the year. This is the year. Like, I need to be at every game. Like, our fans traveled so well to every single game that wasn't in Detroit. Our fans didn't allow opposing fans into our stadium. We ruled it 90%, 99% to 1%. In opposing games, even in San Francisco, it was like 80-20. I'm afraid that we are now expecting that, and we aren't going to travel as well or be as deafening at home because this was the year. Everyone wanted to be there this year because this was the year we were going to get our first playoff win in 30 years. We were supposed to win the Super Bowl or make it to the Super Bowl. I'm a little nervous. So this is a PSA very early. We're in February, and the season doesn't start until September. Lions fans, do your fucking job again next year. Don't become Patriot fans or anyone that thinks that we'll just be there, because Lord knows we may not be. So I personally think the only way we continue this success isn't on Brad Holmes, isn't on Dan Campbell, isn't on Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Aiden Hutchinson, any of these guys. It's on the fucking fans. Go continue to be who we were this year and who we've always been waiting to be, and just catapult and continue and grow and make more outside of Detroit people become fans of the Lions, so that when we play outside of Detroit, they want to come see not their team that the city they're living in, but they want to come see the game because it's playing the Lions. And Lord knows we can score 40, and we're high prolific, high flying. What does The Rock say? I can't remember all of it. Offense, like, so. Just this is just an early PSA. Lions fans, keep it up, dude. I really think that was the reason that we were so good this year.
You see, Nick, I ironically think the complete opposite. I feel like Lions fans saw what we did in those two playoff games. At least anyone that went there likely was most of the season ticket holders, most of the people that will be back next year, and they're like, "Whoa, we made a difference here. This is kind of something." And I feel like fans will continue on. Now, don't get me wrong. There is a chance that fans get a little, too grateful, too expecting of what we could have. But I'm confident our Lions fans know what's at stake, how quickly it can be gone in the blink of an eye. And they'll be back. They'll be hooting and hollering and going and crazy come week one. My hope is that we have just the home opener as week one. Boom, we start things off with a bang. Doesn't matter who it is. I know our schedule is a little bit tougher, so it could be a difficult team. But ultimately, we're going to be playing some tough teams at home. We're facing all the one seeds in the divisions that we're playing because we won our division. So our schedule gets tougher. So we are going to need the crowd, unlike last year where it helped, but we could beat the Bears, or we could beat, not the Bears, but we could beat, the Vikings and certain teams twice. So we need the fans.
The Vikings. The Cousins curse is still a thing. We can't lose to Kirk Cousins. No team has ever lost Kirk Cousins and won a Super Bowl in the same year. So
interesting.
It matters how we start the season, though, guys. Us beating the Chiefs to start off the NFL season was the reason we all believed they could win the Super Bowl the whole season. It's the reason Lions fans started traveling to all the games. They traveled to Kansas City to start off, and that just continued to surge. We can't open season with an L and then just expect that kind of enthusiasm game to game, kind of like how we had this year. We got to start it off right. I hope we get the opener again at Kansas City. I don't think Kansas City is on the schedule, though, right?
No, but it would be pretty crazy. Listen to this. I was thinking about this. Week 1, Monday night, San Fran, Detroit.
I'll take that.
Give me San Fran week 1, dude. That would
we gotta travel there again.
Or it'll be lit.
Or them Dallas Cowboys, because we gotta travel to Dallas for the 15th straight year.
Give us Brad Allen again, dude. Give me Brad Allen again and the Cowboys, and we're gonna just dominate them. dominate.
I would love that. Lions have like 4 penalties that could just be
Bro.
called ticky-tacky penalties. Then we still win by 14.
We need a campaign for that Dallas Brad Allen home opener. Opener because it's in Dallas, right? Again.
In Dallas, yep.
Yep, yeah.
Let's go. Week 1.
Yep.
Let's go. Head to head, baby.
Yep.
And then also got a bold prediction too. So Nick, you were talking about fans kind of traveling around and kind of our fan base growing. Now, week 1, the Eagles kick off the season, I believe, in Brazil. And I can guarantee you're not going to see just 1, you're not going to see 2, you're going to see at least 3. If you look, you might not be right on the broadcast, but if you look, you'll see 3 or more fans repping Lions jerseys at an Eagles, Chargers, Eagles, whoever game, where the Lions have nothing to do, but they're a fan of the Detroit Lions and they want to go see a football team and show the world, I got my Amon-Ra St. Brown football jersey and I'm going to a football game. So
I would almost not believe you, and if it wasn't for what Julius has told us about what he's experienced out in Germany all season. And you're right, we're the world's team, dude. Dallas can be America's team. Good, fuck them. We're the world's team, dude. And the way Julius talks about it, at least being over in Germany, maybe you can speak a little bit on it. But
bro, just yesterday, I had a coworker come up to me like, man, Travis Kelce would have never shoved Dan Campbell like that in the Super Bowl. Dan Campbell would have knocked Kelce's head clean off right there on the spot. They love Dan Campbell. They love the Lions. They don't have to be from Detroit. They don't have to be from America. It's just what the Lions represent. One pride, grit. You know, it's what we are. And that's going to continue. That's going to continue.
amen. Hell yeah.
all right. Jumping back into this 49ers game, because I still think there's a little bit more to cover. A couple guys that really stepped it up. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, our 2 running backs that weren't even on the team last year, came in huge. Honestly, our run game was monster. We had 3 rushing touchdowns. Jamo's 42-yard rushing touchdown, and Gibbs and Monty each had a rushing touchdown. And Montgomery averaged a whopping 6.2 yards per carries against a legit 49ers team. So what this tells me is, man, oh man, if this team can just like keep the ball rolling, stay healthy, I believe that is one of the biggest factors. If we can just stay healthy, there is no doubt in my mind that the Lions won't be playing in this NFC Championship game, or at least a couple playoff games, to give themselves a shot at the Super Bowl. So outside of the run game, I guess, was there any other players that you're like, yeah, this guy, he steps up in big moments? I know Laporta led the team in receptions. We had a couple sacks from our safeties. If he had a half sack, we had Tyson Alu, I forget his last name, had a half sack as well. And then Big Aleem Neal stepped it up and had a sack as well. So any other guy you want to spotlight, Nick, in this game that you kind of noticed was, doing more than usual?
Why do running backs succeed in the NFL? If you're not LaDainian Tomlinson or Barry Sanders, or even I'll throw in Marshall Faulk, it's because you have the best offensive line in the fucking game. I'm going to shout out not one player, but I'm going to shout out all 5 of the offensive linemen. Unfortunately, we were without Jonah Jackson, and you honestly didn't even notice because our offensive line was so superb that game. It was unbelievable. The main point is not Penei Sewell or friend of the show, Taylor Decker, who, if you're still watching, will be on our show later on this year. So just keep an eye out for that. I'm shouting out the guy who went into the game with a back injury, a neck injury, a foot injury, a toe injury, a finger injury, a leg injury, an ear injury, a nose injury, probably like a tooth injury. I assume some of his hair was hurting a little.
Well, that's Hendon Hooker with the tooth injury.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay, well, we'll 86 that from him. But I'm talking about our main guy who runs our offensive line, and is Frank Ragnow, the best center in the entire NFL. Dude better get his respect in the NFL top 100 along with Penei Sewell. Those are who I'm going to shout out, especially. I thought our defense played really well. I know everyone was like, Aiden was super non-existent, but our entire defense played extremely well, especially in that first half. And in the second half, just a few missed plays where the luck just doesn't bounce on your side. We still played really well. We held them in check. It wasn't our Achilles heel is running quarterbacks. Once Brock Purdy realized that he could run on us, that was when things started to go sour, and that sucks. and I don't want to spend too much time on defense, but I do want to just make sure they aren't left out because all we've done is talk about the offense. Our defense played extremely well, in my opinion. It's hard to stop an opponent when they get the ball on the 30 or when they make some crazy diving random ass catch. So shout out Vildor, who I know a lot of people might not be a fan of him right this very second, but he's coming on our show hopefully next week on Tuesday. So make sure you're listening to that. And we will absolutely be asking him about the question about the catch that Ayuk made over him and just how all that kind of went down and what his thoughts are on that. So if you're interested, make sure you tune in. But I'm going to especially point out Frank Ragnow, our entire offensive line. I thought they were played amazing. Goff got sacked a couple times, but when you're playing a guy like Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Eric Armstead, that stuff's going to happen. They have a good defense. But our running game, we just ran over them. That was the reason, in my opinion, that we lost this game was because Ben Johnson almost got a little too cute on offense, and we didn't run it as much as we should have in the second half. I also think Aaron Glenn should have continued blitzing the way he was in the first half and the second half, but he didn't. I don't know if that's just kind of overthinking. I would love to have Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn on the show so I could personally ask them. This is just me kind of assuming as an NFL fan and someone who watches and scouts NFL, like this is just where I think we got a little too cute. But shout out to the offensive line, Frank Ragnow.
Yeah, speaking of the offensive line, not just Frank Ragnow, but Penei Sewell, we're both left off of the NFL 100, which is voted on by the players. So I hope every player that got pancaked, every player that got blown off the line of scrimmage is like by Penei Sewell, Frank Ragnow, or even Decker, any of the boys, has realized these two are special. And Penei Sewell especially. I believe he has solidified himself as not just the best tackle in the NFL, not just the best guard in the NFL, not just the best setter, whatever. He is the best offensive lineman in the NFL. You might say, oh, Trent Williams. Go check the Super Bowl. See how Trent Williams did. He got his ass blown up multiple times by not rotational, but, solid defenders. No one like Aaron Donalds were blowing him up or Aiden Hutchinson's. It was just Trent Williams showing that he's getting a little older, and Penei Sewell is showing that he is a young Trent Williams, and he is coming into this like man bulk. It's a phrase my dad's always said. The young players, they have the strength, but you don't have that like second set of strength until you're like 24, 25, 26. And that's your man bulk when you become a grown man, because, when you're 20, 21, 22, you kind of still are growing up, bulking up, getting bigger. But once you're 26, 27, 28, those years where you're back into your 20s, you are a grown man. And that is what we are seeing Penei Sewell. He is a freak of nature, an absolute beast, and the best offensive lineman in the NFL.
Facts.
Love it. Any other tidbits on this game you guys wanted to talk about? Actually, there is one thing I do want to talk about.
You got to hurry up. I got a Valentine's dinner I got to go to.
Oh, all right, real quick. That's this BS of everyone. Sorry, Julius. Of everyone saying, "Oh, Dan Campbell blew the game. Dan Campbell blew the game. Josh Reynolds didn't blow the game. Jameer Gibbs didn't blow the game. Dan Campbell didn't blow the game." No one has won or lost a Lions game themselves. This is a collective team game. And you cannot pin it on the coach. You can't pin it on Campbell for not letting Bagley kick, who, yes, he made a 40-yarder in the Rams game. But this dude wasn't on our team 6 weeks ago, and you just can't trust him. The percentages, the numbers said, go for it. Oh, here we go with commercials. The numbers set to go for it. And
yeah.
All right, for these commercials.
Honey Badger was like 3 for 8 outdoors. Like, no, don't kick it. The Lions wouldn't be here.
He's outdoors.
The Lions wouldn't be here if we didn't go for it from our own 30 100 different times. We wouldn't be here if we didn't go for it from 4th and 3 100 different times.
Exactly. People forget when week 1 against the Chiefs on our own 30, we faked a punt, marched down the field, didn't get points out of it. But man, oh man, we set the tone. We set the precedent that you guys better be ready every 4th down. I don't care if it's 4th and 25. We will go for it. There's a chance. Be on your toes. And I think it struck fear into a lot of teams. So ultimately, just want to shout out Dan Campbell and this entire team for a phenomenal season. It was an awesome ride. We got not 1, but 2 playoff wins. Dan Campbell now has the most playoff wins for Lions franchise history, which is kind of insane. Somehow didn't win Coach of the Year, but whole different story. As always, go Lions. We will be back this Sunday to be doing our little recap of all our predictions. I don't know if we're going to do the over-unders recaps, but we'll do the
Over-unders.
MVPs.
Over-unders, guys. I know one of the questions
all.
was, will Jahmyr Gibbs have over or under 1,000? I think it was total yards.
All-purpose.
Yeah, I think it was all-purpose yards. We got a lot of fun ones. We're gonna have. I think Aiden, we set the over/under at like 12.5 sacks or something like that. It's gonna be fun. Join us on Sunday.
Numbers are great, man, and honestly, all these numbers too were pretty set by us. We didn't. I mean, we used a little bit of Vegas and kind of used a little bit of that, but it was mostly just us, kind of guessing what our boys would do. And some might be way off because guys overachieved, and some might be spot on because we know our lines.
That's right. That's right. Also, a special shout out to Scott Daly. Unbelievable interview. Unbelievable guy. Great human being. Friend of the show. We can't wait. We're going to have him back on hopefully before the season starts. That's my goal, is to get him back on before.
And if you are just popping in now, rewind this sucker and listen to Scott Daly interview because it was awesome, awesome, awesome. But as always, guys, go Lions. I got
Lions.
My little Lions flag. It disappeared
Sunday
on me.
morning. Over under show. Sunday morning.
Sunday morning.
Sun.